What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. I told you all last time that I was going to have my mentor or someone I knew who had a barbecue business, but none of that fell through. But that's totally okay because I have a new guest scheduled for today. Someone I met online. I think he does really cool things. He's a hypnotist, mentalist. I think there are a lot of other titles that's associated with that. I'm a psych major, and I always believed in, the power of the mind. So I'm totally geeking out when I saw this guy's content and happy to just have a casual conversation with him and learn what he does. So this is my guest today, Fred Lee. Thanks for joining us. If you could tell myself, and the listeners, what do you do?
Yeah, so I do entertainment. I also do motivational talks / presentations. And I also do therapy and also coaching. And that all kind of correlates to all the things I do. So to elaborate more on the entertainment side of things, corporate events, universities, grad nights. So I get booked to do those type of shows. And sometimes if a casino or some other venue wants me there, I do a spot. And usually they take care of all that.
And you do that all yourself. It's not like you work for some company that books it all for you.
Yeah.
You've created this business all yourself.
Well, it's not just me. I mean, even as a sole proprietor, it's not only you. It's all the connections that you make and the friends you make along the way. So
right.
Me, a couple of people that help out every once in a while, yeah.
Oh, so you also do shows, but you also do one-on-one therapy sessions too.
Yeah, so I also do hypnotherapy, also some coaching, and it depends on the client's needs. So it can be from getting rid of a bad habit to just being more confident, just getting rid of anxieties, and basically anything and everything. So
yeah, that's a cool one too, helping someone make their fix their habits, or if they have a bad habit, and how I'm a career counselor. I'm not a therapist, but I understand certain things like cognitive behavioral therapy, which is finding out what someone's thought pattern is and then having like a physical way of changing it whenever that pattern comes into play.
Right.
It sounds like with hypnotherapy, how does that work? How do you help someone get rid of a habit?
I'd say it's any effective therapy out there, but on steroids, because once I work directly with the unconscious mind, and if for those of you that are curious about the whole conscious, subconscious, and all that kind of stuff, I do go into a bit of detail in one of my YouTube videos, which breaks down that the human mind has 3 minds rather than 2. Because in the traditional psychology textbooks, it's a subconscious and conscious. But what I found is there's 3 levels. Anyways, I work directly with the unconscious mind. Yeah. And once I go into the unconscious mind, once I realize it's working and it's responding, then whatever suggestion I input, it automatically overrides anything else. So if the problem, let's say, might be subconscious, you can't really fix it on the conscious, and you only can do so much at a subconscious level because the conscious and subconscious are somewhat interchangeable. But with the unconscious, it's a guaranteed, absolute, overriding that goes on there.
Right. Wow. That's really cool. Do you mind? I know you said you have a video where you talk about the 3rd consciousness level. Could you just tell me briefly what that 3rd one is? Because I'm hooked now. I want to know. I'm curious.
Okay, for sure. So the mind is broken down into 3 parts. The conscious mind is what we're using now. That's actually the lowest out of the 3 minds that I'm talking here. So
it reminds me of the iceberg picture. Like the tip of the iceberg is the consciousness. Underneath the iceberg is the subconscious.
Right, but in this analogy, it's more of like a pyramid or reverse pyramid. Anyways, whichever analogy works, because I do break it down. The conscious mind is the lowest of the lowest, so that's the most easily influenced, because the next up is the subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind overrides the conscious. And in terms of what the conscious mind does in a nutshell, it allows us to judge things. It's where our beliefs come from. It's where identity stems from and personality. The subconscious is more emotional and imagination-based. So at times when you're really angry or if you're really in love, your judgment gets clouded. So that's the subconscious.
Right. Nice.
And also marketers and a lot of big companies, they're trying to target the subconscious because that's the most talked about in the field of psychology in general.
Yeah. Awesome. So listeners, if you want to learn more, check out Fred's YouTube video on that. Going back into the work you do, how much of it is the shows compared to one-on-one?
So in terms of the one-on-one and the entertainment, it's kind of a mix. Depends on the season. So during the summer, a lot of grad nights. So I do those
And
corporate events.
that was my first experience seeing a hypnotist was my grad night. Yeah.
Right. So there's grad nights, and then corporate events are kind of interspersed throughout the year, like team building. Sometimes there's some party of hitting a certain number of things, either sales or number of employees. Holiday events, that's during December, so that's when that picks up, and then the one-on-ones kind of interspersed throughout as well.
Oh, I see. So it depends on the time of the year is when you'll do more shows compared to one-on-ones.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily more shows, it's more private events. So doing actual shows require you to either four-wall theater, or if you're lucky, the venue owners, if they like you enough, they'll just let you use the space for free, and
Right.
you can work that way.
Yeah. So what brought you to doing this? What made you want to become a hypnotist, a mentalist? I think that's another word for it, right? Mentalist?
No. Mentalism, I'll get to that in just a bit, because I'm
Okay.
going to kind of
Got it. Educate me, Fred.
my journey here.
Okay.
So,
Teach me. I am a student. I'm here to learn.
all right. Well, the title that I use is a mastermind because it encompasses all the things that I've done and learned so far. So I started off in high school, out of all things and out of all places. It's like, well, how'd you get into what you do? Well, it's not like I discovered a book or I, had this kit when I was a kid. I was in high school. I was waiting for my laundry, had a coin laundromat. Nearby was a dollar store, and I got into and I just loitered and found like a couple of trick decks, and I started learning magic first. So I got into magic, and then during that time period, I discovered hypnosis along the way. So I saw a YouTube video of a street hypnotist going out on the streets, knocking people out, and I'm like, oh, that's sick. I want to try that. So I'm pretty much self-taught in all of this stuff. So I learned.
Wow.
So I learned to do this all on my own. Yep. And then from there, I expanded and went from there. And I thought, well, I like magic. I like this hypnosis stuff, but how do I mesh the two together? So that way, that I can be more unique. And mentalism was the solution. So mentalism is basically like psychic demonstrations of mind reading. You can move stuff with your mind. Uri Geller is predominantly well known for bending spoons. So mentalism is that little fine middle ground between magic and hypnosis. And ever since, I've been doing mainly mentalism and hypnotism because that's what I'm mainly booked for.
Right. That's crazy. You said that you self-taught. Did you have a mentor or something to teach you?
No, and the thing is, when I discovered people that would have been really good mentors early on, it's just like I'm already established, and then by the time I meet these people, really, where are these people? I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, I was an antisocial kid, right? Okay, makes sense. Yeah.
Could you tell me about your first show?
First, which show? Magic show, or first show ever, right? First show ever. Or is it like because there's all kinds of different shows. There's magic shows, mentalism shows, hypnosis shows. So which one?
Which one do you think was most memorable?
My gosh, they're all.
I like to ask people to tell me stories because I think stories are fascinating. So I'll let you choose, and you could ponder over it if you need to.
This one was a more recent one. This was last year in October. It was in Sacramento when I did a show with a couple of friends at the Delta King. So it was like a triple threat because they both did magic and illusions and stuff, so, big boxes and whatnot. So that was cool. And I did my hypnosis, and I was pretty much the gel that put it all together. So I was the MC for that whole event. And I've kind of throw up some of those clips every once in a while on my channel and also my promo videos. So that's on that boat. And man, that was a really, really fun. It was a really fun show. Initially, it was like all shows, it's hectic and that kind of thing. The venue is a nice venue. It seems rather tight if you don't know what you're getting into, but it's a really, really good spot. And while I was there, everyone had a ball. It's just bodies were hitting the floor. It's the videos themselves, I'd say would do a better job of explaining why. But yeah, it was the most fun I've ever had.
Yeah.
Career-wise. Yeah.
So that was the recent one. How about the first one? First, let's do a hypnotist show. Do you remember your first show?
Hypnosis show. Okay. Let's see. And I'm gonna break it down even more because I'm technical and whatnot.
Go for it. Go for it.
First casual, like, first time ever, or first paid show.
Let's do both. I'm interested to know both the casual
All right.
one and then the paid show.
So first casual show, it was kind of like an open mic format. So I literally crashed an open mic at a library, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna just hypnotize some people and see how it goes. So yeah. So I was there. I went there and got some people and I hypnotized them. And one of the things I made one of them do was I made him think that he was one guy think he was Superman. So he said all the things that supposedly Superman would say, but obviously rather than saying he was from Krypton, he said like some other random. It was loads of fun. And I had like a kind of like there's this pencil case that's like shaped like a chipmunk. I used that in the show. I was like, if this little guy can actually make you fall asleep, just chuck it at his face.
So you crashed a library. I wonder if most of their open mics are people reading poems and reading books. All of a sudden you go up there, you're like, I'm going to hypnotize you.
Yeah. So usually at these
the librarian's like, what the heck did you just do? What did you do to our patrons?
Well, this is the library. Library is all about community and everything. So it's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, in general, open mics, aside from being a breeding ground for musicians, comedians even, comedians are actually fairly recent in terms of what I noticed in open mics. So comedians, musicians, poets, maybe. Yeah, I think those are like the main ones.
Oh yeah, musicians, poets, that's what or comics. I usually see those.
Right.
Magic too sometimes. Before. Yeah.
Magic's actually is kind of on the rise too.
Okay.
Comedians more so on the rise throughout what I've observed, and then magic's been more recent. Like some people are doing more magic, but mainly open mics have been my bread and butter, just to hone my craft and to really figure things out.
Wow, how much do you think you've done? How much open mics?
About 100-ish, maybe more.
And that's what it takes, right? To really get good at something is putting yourself out there and doing it. I even think about myself and what I do, say like a career counseling session with a student. After hundreds and hundreds of times, then it's normal. Or making YouTube videos. The first YouTube video was horrible, and then eventually I got better. So it takes a lot of work. Hundreds and hundreds of open mic shows. Do you still get nervous when you have to put on a show?
Well, if I'm four-walling a theater and if I'm doing everything, then yeah, obviously there's going to be some nervousness. Mainly the nerves is for like, okay, can I get butts in seats? Are people going to flake? Is the weather going to be absolute crap? Because I mean, I've booked a theater before and the weather was absolute crap. Dude, I've had too many fair share of bad times.
Could you tell me about like a disastrous show that didn't go well?
You know what? Personally, I have really, really, really high standards, and whenever I look back at the video, because I record every show, and I'm like, holy crap! I actually saved the ship, even though it's not up to my standards. It's everybody enjoyed it at least, and they didn't walk away all pissed off. So as long as everyone's happy, yeah. So let's talk about Shitstorm 1.
All right.
So Shitstorm 1 was when I first debuted my hypnosis show in Redwood City, and so I four-walled the theater and everything, and I believe it was in March. Yeah, it was in March, and I actually went halvesies with a magician friend. Now, the magician friend took the earlier time slot because he's family friendly, so kids and adults, easy to pack a show with. If there's a bunch of kids, and if your material works that way. And then I take the later slot because my show is 18 plus because anything goes in my show, which is also right. So
yours is for adults only.
Yeah. I mean, if adults manage to sneak their kids in, well, I'm not responsible for whatever subject comes up during the car ride back, right? Anyways, back to that. Okay, so it was actually really rainy that day. So it was really rainy, and I was worried that people wouldn't show up. Not only that, after when the magician friend finished, he left a mess. So there was like Coke spilled on the stage, confetti and crap everywhere. And
You're like,
basically,
dude, come on, you should have cleaned up after your performance.
right? So it's little to no staff, basically. So I pretty much one man, I cleaned the whole thing, ran to grab paper towels, which the restroom's like, a good several feet or so. It's in a weird spot. It's like a labyrinth almost. Anyway, there, clean that up. I started the show, and obviously people could tell I was rushed. But
Right? They could see
yeah,
you on stage cleaning up the coke on the floor and everything
oh no. It was
behind the
I
curtains.
cleaned all that up before people came on stage, but I had to push my start time a little bit later.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that wasn't fun at
it's
all.
never fun to be rushed to do something.
Yeah,
But then in the end, the show worked out fine.
yeah, it worked out, and I had some footage that was usable, and it was good.
Yeah.
Good times.
I mentioned. So I said gave me an example or story of your first casual show. All right, the
Mhm.
first paid show. How was that?
First paid show. So first paid show was during my year at UC Santa Cruz. I was a freshman, and I was booked to do a show as a freshman doing a hypnosis show on campus, which was great. It was super convenient too, because at the time I was living at the dorms, so
Yeah.
it all worked out. And that was a very, very fun show. Um, I'd say throughout my career, I'd say it's one of my favorites.
Uh-huh.
One of my favorite shows because that was like the year Gangnam Style became popular.
Oh,
So,
yeah, so you made them all do Gundam style.
yep, it was great.
I,
And that show was a fun show, especially for me. Aside from really just going to town, it really allowed me to just mix the mediums of magic and hypnosis and just see what formula works out and
yeah.
fun.
Whenever I go to a hypnotist show, the best part is always when someone starts dancing.
Yeah, there's got to be more to it. So whenever I come up with a show, I'm like, okay, what else can I make people do aside from dance that I know will be equally, if not more, entertaining?
Right.
So
What is
yeah,
something that you had people do that is usually off the charts? The crowd loves it. Like, it's the funniest thing for them.
I mean, let's see, gender bent supermodels. That's something that I do. So all the guys on stage are super hot female supermodels. All the
Uh-huh.
women are super buff guys. That dynamic is fun.
So
Uh,
how does it work? Like how do you if someone wants to do what you do, what would you tell them and like how does it all work?
okay, so to break it down, there's several questions that are going on in that statement, and that is, how does one go about learning this, and then how does it actually work on a technical standpoint? So to learn, I would strongly recommend learning from someone that really knows their stuff. And I do offer courses, and I've had some people take the workshop in person with me. So all of
Oh,
my
sweet.
workshops are in person,
Sweet. So
and
you
I
do
go
some
into full
training
detail
too.
on everything.
Oh, nice.
Yep. And then how it works, so I'm going to break it down. It utilizes the three minds that I was talking about: conscious, subconscious, and then the unconscious. And the unconscious mind is the top of all of the three. So whatever the unconscious mind demands, it overrides everything else. Which is why whenever I work with people, people are like, "Oh, you can't hypnotize me because I don't believe in it." And boy, are they wrong. When I really dug into this and really found the unconscious mind and how it actually does crazy things, it also explains another phenomenon known as waking hypnosis, which is creating or causing hypnotic phenomena without actually having them like with their eyes closed, bodies collapsed, or anything. And
Huh.
that's some of the stuff that you actually see in my videos of waking hypnosis. Now, there are some examples of waking hypnosis where I just make people forget stuff right off the bat, and I think that's my recent video that came out.
Right, when you made someone forget their name.
Yeah, so that's waking hypnosis.
Okay.
So that's an example of that. and this, and again, so waking hypnosis and all the other and the genuine hypnotic phenomena, when people start to feel that they can't control their actions, that's the unconscious mind doing its work.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
And if someone, how long do you think it would take for someone to be able to do something like, what do you think is the easiest thing someone could do if they're starting off?
Let's see what they can do when they're starting off. I mean, to be honest, just a couple like barbet kind of tricks that resemble it. That's really about it.
Yeah.
But I'd say it ultimately depends on the person as well, because there's a lot that goes on behind hypnosis and how it works, and it's just a matter of figuring out, okay, this is the type of person you are. This is how your behavior is. This is how your behavior affects other people, and and from all those pieces of information, I can determine, all right, this is the angle of attack for you to use to be able to tap into their unconscious mind.
Mm. Do you
So it's
feel?
all a person by person case.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I have like not much idea of how the technique works, and I assume it's a lot of years of training for it. But yeah, if someone were to learn how to do it, it sounds like they should study up on something, find someone who does it really well, and learn from there. Was there like a go-to book you first went to?
Now I invested in books a little bit later because I was like, let's see what the material sources say, right?
Yeah.
So I looked. So the first and only book on hypnosis I got was Orman McGill's book. I think it was a book on professional stage hypnotism. I think that was it.
Hmm.
And from there, I just kind of looked at it, skimmed through it. And I'm like, oh, I'm already more or less doing that stuff, if not more better. And at this point, I realized most techniques taught are really outdated. And
Interesting.
what
Okay.
I've discovered is that I've really stood out from other hypnotists. Not to toot my own horn or say, I'm better than the competition, but let's face it, these are the facts. The traditional hypnotist, like you've probably seen at your grad night, would do
Right.
something along the lines of, all right, class, sit down. I'm going to bore you to sleep and hope to God that some of you actually believe that this works. So
Okay.
the
Yeah. And we
traditional
spent a
method,
lot of time in the very beginning, kind of like closing our eyes, meditating, getting into a sort of, I guess, drowsy
right,
state. Hmm.
right. So that's meditation and guided meditation. That's not hypnosis. I don't care what the
Mm.
person says. If they do
Okay.
that, it's not hypnosis. Period. Now, it all in those scenarios as well, in the board of sleep guided meditation type of things. If you find what they call the gems, these are people that actually believe that it's happening. Or there's two cases. There's people that believe that's actually happening, or their unconscious mind actually takes over, which is really really rare. With the board of sleep method, the unconscious mind taking over doesn't quite happen often. But anyways, the border sleep method, that's how that works. And most of the time, people walk away saying, oh, I felt like I was guided through. So that's not hypnosis. Everybody knows in social media or anywhere else, people, when they think of hypnosis, it's like, I was doing stuff that I can't do, that I never thought I would do. And I was doing things against my will. So that to really separate what's real hypnosis and what's not, the unconscious mind is the biggest factor. And if the hypnotist can successfully tap into the unconscious mind of, I'd say, I'd say 70, 80%. I mean, I'm a nice guy. I'd say that's passing. You know,
Uh-huh. That's interesting.
70 to
Okay.
80% of people that come up, then, you know,
Right. So
you're doing
there are these different forms of hypnotism, guided meditation, but those are really two different things.
yeah. So hypnosis and guided meditation are vastly different.
I see.
To a layperson, it seems the same because the end result is they're both knocked out.
Right, right.
But the end, but the end result after when they come out of it and how they explain it, that's going to be the real determining factor of whether or not this person really was hypnotized or just playing along. And that's what
Okay.
I mean by pity party is people just playing along because they don't want to make the idiot on stage look bad, right?
Right. Yeah, I think I see that like sometimes we'll go to Discovery Kingdom, Marine World. Uh Fred?
Yep.
Oh yeah, just checking. I know the signal glitched a little bit. Yeah, I would go to
Hmm.
like the theme park, and there would be a hypnotist, and there are some people who are really not, I wouldn't say, not in control of it,
Hmm.
or not, and not as much in control of it. And then there are some who are doing the pity party thing. They're sort of doing it because they don't want to make the person feel bad, or they don't want to. They're kind of stuck and conformed to following along with the rest of
Right.
it. Yeah.
So yeah, in this case, those are victims of what I like to call psychological bullying because that's actually what happened. So psychological bullying, it uses social. In this case, it's social peer pressure that's applied.
Right.
So
But
whenever you see whenever you
yeah,
see traditional guys do it, that's what's going on.
yeah. But everyone can be hypnotized, whether they
Yep.
believe in it or not, or super skeptical about it or not.
Oh, skeptics are so fun.
Yeah. Tell me about that. Tell me about the people who don't believe it's real.
Oh man, once they start doing waking hypnosis demonstrations, they flip. And I choose to be the nice guy of, so do you want to go further? Or I don't give them a choice. I don't say, hey, let's take this up a notch. Boom. Knock them out and have fun that way.
Is it?
But yeah.
Oh, no, go ahead. You can finish your thought on what do you say to people who don't think it's real?
Right. I just say, well, why don't you just try it out for yourself? Because with hypnosis, it doesn't matter if you believe in it or not. And I kind of explained the little 3 mindsets and how it more or less works. So that way they can kind of know. So at least I can educate them properly, and they walk away with something rather than be like, this guy just mind raped me, you know?
Right. So for you guys, listeners who don't believe it's real, check out Fred's show and see for yourself.
Now, you did bring up people that can't be hypnotized, and here's what I have found. Now, in order for all these minds are all connected, and they all work because of our brain. I'm not sure exactly where the conscious mind is, where the subconscious, where the unconscious mind is in parts of our brain, but as long as our neurons are there, and as long as it taps into all of those resources, then it works.
Oh, I see.
So, those who were born with either a mental dysillness, usually it's caused by a distortion in the neurons or the connections. So those on the spectrum, it's like a weird case. It's a case-by-case scenario.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Sociopaths and psychopaths, no, not at all. Because a lot of the receptors have been cut off. And obviously from their actions of screwing people over or, maybe dead, right? Yeah, you get
So if you have a sociopath who's like, we need to change your habits, darn, because of your neurons, we can't use hypnotherapy on you.
And the thing is, sociopaths don't have remorse anyway, so they wouldn't even bother seeking help. They just want to pretend to be helped to screw people over. That's a different topic entirely.
I know we're going on a tangent on that. Right. And letting listeners know I am a total geek on this subject, so it was easy for me to go on a tangent, but we'll keep things short and make sure we don't go too far into that.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Let me just wrap up and tell the listeners you do have a show. It's on April 24th. Could you tell us about that?
So this is on April 24th. It's a Tuesday night. If you're in the Bay Area, it's in Sunnyvale. The venue is called Rooster Tea Feathers, and it's a collaborative show. So a buddy of mine rented the theater and said, hey, why don't you do a bit with me? I'm like, okay, sure. So it's going to be magicians, comedians, and me. And I'll be doing like a mix of magic and hypnosis. So magic it's all going to be a hybrid in this particular case. But yeah, definitely check me out. It's April 24th, Rooster Tea Feathers in Sunnyvale. And you can go to roosterteafeathers.com and go into the calendar section to find the exact date and buy tickets there. Or, to make life easier, I have pre-linked everything on my website, which is fredleemind.com. So Fred as in Fred, Lee, like as in Bruce Lee, mind as in the mind.com.
Great. Well, I'm going to wrap things up. Thanks so much, Fred, for sharing your story, a little bit about how the mind works, how hypnosis works.
Yeah, for sure.
I look forward to staying in touch.
Sounds good, John. Thanks for having me.
All right. So listeners, thanks so much for listening today. My next guest on Wednesday is a cartoonist and a writer. His name is, let me pull it up real quick, just I want to make sure I don't pronounce the last name wrong. His name is Alex Schumacher. And Alex, if you're listening, I'm totally sorry if I botched that. But I will be talking to him on Wednesday. That will be my next guest. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed listening. Hopefully you didn't get too mind blown by hearing this. And if you're a skeptic, check out Fred's page. Check out his show. All right, everyone. Have a good one. Take care.